Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. I am so excited for today's guest. He is actor, writer, and director Michael Strassner. We're going to chat with Michael in just a second, but first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please follow or subscribe and rate and review, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. And so I don't want to make too much out of this, but this is our 400th episode. 400. So thank you, Jen. Thank you, Matty. It's been a fun ride. Here's to the next 400. So Michael Strassner. He is an actor, writer, and director. His credits include Young Rock, A Spy Movie, Modern Family, Parks and Recreation, and others. He also wrote, directed, and starred in the award-winning short film Big Boy, and he stars in the new film The BALTIMORONs, which he co-wrote with Jay Duplass, and which will be released this month. Michael, welcome into the back room.
Hey, Andy, how are you? Excited to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. We're going to talk about your incredible film, The BALTIMORONs, in just a few minutes, but I want to go back in time a little bit, talk about little Michael, get a sense of who you were as a kid. What were you like as a kid? Were you creative, funny, a jock, all of the above? Tell me.
Yeah, I was quite annoying after movies. I would come home. I remember seeing Mrs. Doubtfire when I was 3, and which probably was too young for that. I didn't get a lot of innuendos, but I came home and I put on my sister's dress and a wig, and I was like, my mom was like, "What are you doing, Michael?" And I'm like, "I'm Euphigenia Doubtfire, my dear." And I did the same thing with Ace Ventura. I came home, I threw the shirt on and was just like, "Alrighty then," and just was walking around annoying my sisters. But I was, I noticed that if I could make people laugh, like it was like a nice little, it was like my favorite thing to do, you know? And I did that many, like I became the class clown in high school. I think I was voted class clown, and I kind of towed the line too, because I played lacrosse and football, but then I also did the theater stuff as well. And I was the senior class president, just not because of my grades at all, because I think I had a 2.0, but just because I could make the morning announcements funnier.
That's important.
And I think it really is. And I think I said my goal was to get sodas for everybody, and I didn't get any sodas for anyone, like free sodas. I just I fell in love with comedy from a very young age, watching my heroes like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Chris Farley, and then just wanted to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, you mentioned Ace Ventura. I think I've seen that film 100 times. Like,
truly,
I'm single. When I go on dates, that's a prerequisite question. It's like, do you like Ace Ventura? Because if you don't, it's just not going to work.
It's not going to happen, you know? And it's just, I mean, truly, like, I think I watch that once a year. And, just when he's in the car with Dan Marino, and he's like, "Ace, where'd you get this gum? That's none of your damn business, Dan. Like, you stay out of my personal things."
Stay in my personal business. That is such a great film. And what about other people in your family? Any creatives?
Not really.
Parents?
My dad was always like the cut up. Like, I definitely noticed from him that he was always he was the class clown out of his group of buddies, and he was always like making people kind of uncomfortable with his comedy sometimes.
Did he get them? Did he get them sodas? Free sodas?
No, he didn't get any. I mean, I think he got them beers, because it was the 70s and 80s. And then my mom, she always encouraged me. Like, she always said she wanted to be a dancer, but she went back and did right after college, she worked at her mom's florist, and kind of just did that. And she always kind of told me, like, when I was a kid, like, do what you want to do. Don't do what anybody else tells you should do. Because I had a lot of people, when I said I was going to be a theater major, be like, "Well, you're going to get a business degree too." And I'm like, "No, I'm going all in. Like, this is what I want to do, and we'll see what happens." But and there were moments throughout this career where, I would always call my mom, and she's like, "You're going to keep doing, like, you can vent to me, but just just stay the course.
That's so important because
Yeah.
there are people doing it, right? Someone's got to do it. Somebody's making movies, somebody's acting, someone's directing, someone's doing hair and makeup or whatever part of the film or TV process, the creative process. There's, people do it. And so when you recognize that that's what you want to do, it's also fantastic that you have parents like that who can cultivate it and nurture and support. So when did you get bit by the acting bug in terms of like, this is what I want to do?
Well, I did the talent show when I was in third and fourth grade. I sang Backstreet Boys As Long As You Love Me by myself. And it was a very high pitched version. Like, I think I was trying to do all their voices and it just didn't. I mean, I think it played well. It did good. And then I did Joey McIntyre Stay the Same. And then in middle school, I auditioned for You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And I got the role of Snoopy. And I was like, okay, like, let's see what this is. And I remember getting like, the opening of Act 2 is like Red Baron. And it's like this ginormous monologue. I was like, how am I going to do this? Is crazy. But I just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And like, I remember doing Supper Time, which is like this big chorus. And I don't do musicals anymore at all. Like, I'm not a singer. I think when I was when I was in seventh grade, I could sing, but now not so much. But I remembered like really hearing the laughter of the crowd as I'm doing this like kind of crazy song. And I just was like, I really like this. I really like this feeling. And I just kept on doing it in high school. And then in college, I went to East Carolina for a year, and I was a business degree there for a year. That was the only time I got a 4.0 in college,
Impressive.
Which is crazy. Yeah. But then I transferred to Maryland, and I was like, I really want to just do what I've always loved. And I just went to the theater program and then moved out to California.
And you mentioned some of your inspirations before. Were there others, and were there like dramatic actors? Like you're a comedy guy, but did you ever be like, De Niro, I can do that someday?
I mean, honestly, I forgot to include Bill Murray. He's the guy that
fantastic.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. But Philip Seymour Hoffman was somebody that like I truly like loved growing up and like watching him and like I think maybe because I was in middle school, or I think I was in high school when Along Came Polly came out, and he was so funny in that that I like got brought over to his dramatic work, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's so great. And then like when I saw him in Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and he's always just like this like interesting character, I just was like, what, like, who is this guy? And I really loved him. I mean, he was something special. And yeah, I mean, Robin Williams, like his dramatic work always kind of like got me like, oh, like he knows how to turn it to both. Like, he can turn on the comedy, but also like, when he's doing his like, actually, in high school, I auditioned with the Good Will Hunting monologue on the bench, and I'm 15 talking about, have you ever held your best friend's head in war? Like, have you ever held your wife's hand in the hospital in the visiting hours? Like, and the director was like, you need to pick a monologue that fits your age. I don't believe a word you're saying. You've never experienced any of these things. But I was like, it's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
So yeah, but those guys were like next level.
Well, you got a little Phil Hoffman in you, I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's a huge compliment.
And what about filmmakers when you were growing up, coming up in the business? Like, were there filmmakers who you looked at and thought,
yeah,
that's who I want to mirror?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like growing up, like I saw Dazed and Confused for the first time, Richard Linklater's movie, and like Clerks, and I was a huge Kevin Smith fan where I would see, Mallrats and Dogma, and like that was like kind of how I started to like fall in love with movies, because I was like, okay, like they're doing these movies that take place in like one day, or like how are they like, and they're just so entertaining. Like, how is this day so entertaining? And also just like, who are these? Like, they're just putting a movie together, you know? And then when you hear Kevin Smith's story about like, yeah, like I maxed out all my credit cards on Clerks. Like, this is what I want to do. And it paid it dividends. And like now, and then also like when I moved out to California, I think, yeah, because Puffy Chair I think came out in like 2007 and I was in college then, or 2005. But you know, then when I saw what the Duplasses were doing, I was like, okay, like this can be done too. And I like read, you know, like Brothers from front to back, how to make things. And that was the crazy thing is like, I read their book, like, you know, 5 years before I met Jay, and just like, God, like these guys just have the pamphlet of how to make a movie. And then, you know, maybe it kind of came into its own fruition by doing that. I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about those guys in a second, but let's talk about the film,
Yeah.
The Baltimorons, which I got to say, Michael, it is so good. You know, you and I met at the Nantucket Film Festival back in June. I was with my pal and co-producer here, Jen Hammoud. And
How much fun was that festival, by the way?
it was great. I've gone to it a few
love
times
that.
over the years. It is such a small, sweet little, intimate, communal atmosphere. And it is so good. And unfortunately, we blew in and out in like, I think, a day and a half or something. And your film was playing when I was doing an event with Alex Gibney, I believe. I was interviewing him there. But then you got me a screener after that. But it is so good. And this is no bullshit. It is one of the best movies I've seen in years. And because it is sweet, it is funny, it is authentic, it is dark, it is just so good. And your performance is off the charts for me. I mean, you did such an incredible job. So congratulations to you. And I wish you so much success
Thank you
with
so
it.
much.
So I want to start off by asking you about the title, which is such a unique and hilarious title. How did you come up with that?
Well, you know, I would never name a movie Baltimorons if I was not from Baltimore. That is my first thing that I'll say.
I feel like that's a requirement.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's definitely like, because the term originally is Baltimorean or Baltimorans. Like it's spelled differently, and
Right.
but you know, I think my dad would call me like, you know, when I was doing something stupid, he'd just be like, "You're a moron. You're a Baltimorean. That's what you are," you know. And what's nice about the movie is that you see why it's called Baltimorons later in the movie. It's not really. I mean, I think it definitely plays on the sense of like Cliff and how he's constantly doing things that are moronic behavior. You know, like not looking at a parking sign before getting out of it.
He's
and
kind of
even, like,
kind
you
of
know,
Mr. Bean-ish in a way.
Mr. Bean, I mean, Mark told Jay after he saw First Cut, he was like, "You realize you have a live action Charlie Brown here." Like he's constantly falling over himself, and yeah, it's I find it as a place of like, you know, just a sweet term that is about, you know, this little eclectic group of people, you know.
So give us the backstory. How and when did you come up with the idea for this film, which is so unique?
Of course. Yeah. You know, I met Jay in 2021, as most people do now, on Instagram. He followed me on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my God, like this is
That's
the coolest
great.
thing." He was watching my comedy content, and I was doing like, I think I was doing Buffalo Bill talking to his Alexa. So I would just kind of be like, "Alexa, where can I buy skin?" And and I just saw he liked it, and I had a short film that I wanted to shoot, and I was like, you know what? This guy constantly talks about making stuff. I'm looking for an actress. Let me just shoot him a DM and see if he answers. And 6 months later, he answered, and he's like, "Dude, I'm old. I don't know how Instagram works. But send me the script." I sent him the script. I went over his house, and then he helped me with it. I shot it. I came over his house again, and he helped me with the edit. And in December of 2022, I took him out to lunch as a thank you. And I told him a little bit about my story and how I got sober. And after that meeting, I wrote on my manifestations, shoot a movie with Jay Duplass in 2023. And he called me in April and he said, I want to back in somebody's life and do a movie, and you're the first person that came to mind. You want to do it? And I was like, yes, let's do that.
Wow.
And so I came over and we just kind of, I told him some more stories, told him a little more about my life. And we just kind of wrote that first draft and then kept on kind of expanding after that. And, the SAG strike ended and we couldn't audition actors quite yet. So Jay met Liz, and Liz, who plays Dee Dee in our movie, she's incredible. And we just shot December 1st through December 21st of 2023. And then I showed Jay my manifestations at the end of the year and said, you made a big dream come true, bud.
That's incredible. Fucking Instagram. Like, you just proved so many parents wrong. Like, get off of that social media shit. Like, you just proved that, like, you could change your life by who you meet. I've experienced it myself. It's crazy. That's social media, some people say it's going to, ruin our kids, but in a way, it can really open so many doors. It's crazy.
100%. I mean, like, and it's also like, and I learned this from producing the movie as well, with Jay and Dave and the Duplass Brothers, the Duplass Brothers Productions. But like, the worst thing anyone is ever going to say to you is no, and you might as well just shoot your shot, and it's just kind of like, I'm just not afraid of that anymore. Like like being, I guess, what is it? Like feeling shame if like somebody doesn't respond or anything. It's like, it's okay. Like if they don't respond, I guess it's just, it's nothing you did, or so, yeah.
Well, fear of rejection is something that I think a lot of people fear. It's rooted in insecurity, but to your point, it's like, you got to be in it to win it, Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, if Jay had said to you, "No, man, I'm busy," like, you may never see him again. Who cares? Like, what's the big deal, right? But you took your shot. I mean, I remember sitting with Eddie Burns once, and he was telling this story that he had been rejected for the Brothers McMullen by Sundance, and then like maybe a year later, he was working as an intern at E! News or something like that. And they were doing an interview with Robert Redford. And he said, all right, this is my shot. And then Redford leaves, goes out to the elevator bank. Eddie runs after him, has like a cassette in his pocket. And he goes, here, if you would just watch this film. And the rest is history. Like, had he not gone out to that elevator bank, his whole life would be different. If he was afraid that Redford would say, get out of here, kid. Don't bother me. Send it out to Utah. And those moments in life are so fucking meaningful. That's the one thing any of us who have kids should always tell our kids. Shoot for the stars. Take your shot. The worst thing that can happen is what you just said. Somebody says no, but it could change your freaking life.
Well, and like Ed Burns is another one that I watched his movies as a kid and like loved what he was doing, but like, that's the craziest thing is like, and also like, I don't know, like I saw a thing on TikTok, social media the other day where it was like, dream like extraordinarily big, like go big with it. And like, is even like in this experience that I'm having right now with Baltimorons, like I even dreamt of it in like a smaller, it's been smaller than what has actually happened. Like, and that's the craziest thing is like, I've just been enjoying this ride and it's so much more than I could have ever imagined. And I'm just so beyond grateful for it just by sending that DM, like that started it all.
Wow. It certainly was an audience favorite at Nantucket. It's been a festival darling wherever you've gone. What is that like to go to a festival and just feel like, holy shit, I'm on top of the world with this film?
It's been like really, I mean, it all started at South by. That's where we premiered. And that was also like incredible because like, I had my mom at one screening and my dad at another. And like, my mom's in the movie, my dad's in the movie. My mom plays Darlene, who's Brittany's mom, and she's 5 minutes into the movie. She forgot she was in it. So she's watching and she goes, oh, and I was, did you forget we shot that, Mom? And then my dad at another screening, he's going, there's Dell, there's Marty, there's Lauren, and he's just naming people like that he sees that he knows because it's all my family and friends in it. And I'm like, Dad, this isn't a private screening. You can't just be saying people's names in it. But he was having so much fun, and just like to have them come to the premieres, like that has meant the world, because like, you're working for so long and nothing's really happening, and people are sometimes like, oh, you're still doing it, or what do you got next, or all that stuff. And it was so nice to have them enjoy this experience with me. But like going to like, and then winning the audience award at South by Southwest as the first one was such a surprise, because that was like the only thing could have won, and we won. And, and then like going to Nantucket, I think we've been to like 13 festivals, and like we were in Munich and Carlo Viveri, which like, I don't know any of these people, but like, the showings sell out, and you're like, and I just kind of hang in the back of the room, because I just love to be in there and hear how the audience reacts to this movie. And it's been like the most rewarding thing in the world to hear the audience reaction, hearing laughter in theaters again, because I feel like there hasn't been much laughter in theaters.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud that this movie has been bringing people together in that way, leaving the theater smiling.
It's a flawless movie. It really is. Like, there isn't a moment of air where you're just like, this would be a good time to go to the bathroom. That moment isn't there. Every second of that film is purposeful, and it just flows. And the sign of any great movie is when it's over and you're like, fuck, I could do another hour of this, And so again,
Wow,
congrats. It is so good. And I'm so excited to see when it's out, because I think there are really big things ahead for it and you. And so what was it like working with the brothers, like collaboratively? That must have been incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jay and I wrote it together, and like, just like going, like again, like I kind of felt like as it was happening, I was like, is this really my life right now? Like, I was driving to Jay's house, and we were just writing together, and he'd make me breakfast. And we would just like sit down and like knock out like,
what is a
10 to
Duplass
15
breakfast?
pages. A Duplass breakfast, he cooks eggs in the microwave, which I've never seen before.
Very independent. That is so independent.
Very independent. Yeah, eggs with salsa, and we would just knock that back. And then, and then we have a coffee and just like get right to work. And like, it is working with Jay was truly like, I mean, talk about a guy who like doesn't have an ego, who literally just like, there's no bad ideas. Like, we would just kept on pitching each other, like, and he was like, yeah, throw that in. And again, if it's in that draft, it might not be in the next one, but at least we could like try it and hear it. And, and then when we like got to set, like, it was just such an easy, like, I hate to use the word easy, but like,
No,
it felt
what it was.
Like, it felt just like I like just was comfortable in my own skin for the first time, like on set, just like, okay, like I'm supposed to be here, and I don't know if that was just because Jay just made me feel so comfortable going into it. But he also gave me the best note ever, he just said, Michael, you're enough. You don't need to do much, like, you just kind of can be like
was that as a director? Was that as a director? He said that to you?
Oh yeah. He was like, you small is still like, like, like there's so much there. And it was just, I just truly like, and he was even like, especially the dramatic stuff. He was like, he told somebody the other day, he was like, I don't know if you could do it. I really didn't. Like, I knew you could do the comedy, but then you really surprised me with the drama stuff. And I was like, I think I surprised myself. I don't know. I just kind of trusted you, and yeah, and then Jay basically gave me like a master's class in how to direct and do post as well, because in every single aspect, I was with him, you know. Uh, he would give notes, and he would give hundreds of notes to the editor. And when we did the color, like I just saw things that he did that I just never would have thought of. And it's because of 30 years of experience, you know.
Movies like this and filmmakers, independent filmmakers, the biggest hurdle is always financing, getting the financing put together. Was that an easier element of this film because of their involvement?
Oh yeah, I mean, Jay basically was like, main reason why he wanted to do this movie was he was like, I want to do something that's unstoppable, that takes me back to my puffy chair days, you know, where him and Mark financed it himself, or themselves with the company. And everybody told Jay, don't make a movie without any stars, nothing's selling, and everything's going to streaming. And the best part about this whole experience, he was like, we made a movie. This is his words. He said, we made a movie without any stars. I think Michael and Liz will be stars down the road, but for the time being, you know, it got picked up by IFC and it's playing in theaters. So nobody knows anything in this business.
That is,
and you know,
for sure.
That's
you
just got to do it.
Story. Yeah, that is so great that you had them as your champion, because there's some pretty awesome champions to have. So this is your first starring role. It's the first time as a writer-producer. And so What was it like balancing those various roles on this project? Was there a fairly organic flow to it all? Did it come easy to you?
You know, I think because I mean, getting to like the writing aspect, like that's usually my hardest part. Like I've written several things in the past, and you know, it's just I think it's the hardest part in the sense that sometimes it's isolated, or you're in your head with like, you know, and I've heard Judd Apatow be like, you just write the first draft, you get the crap draft out, you know, and the producing aspect, that was just like, you know, that's the thing I learned, especially going back to my hometown. Everybody wants to help out, truly. You know, we just made calls to so many people. Hey, can we borrow your Mercedes for 3 weeks? Yeah, sure. I'm not using it. You know, can we borrow your Cadillac? Yeah, go for it. You know, all the locations were just, I mean, that's the main thing is we had 45 locations or something, and we didn't pay for one of them. It was all just people being kind. And then the acting aspect, like when you're with somebody like Liz Larson, who's your counterpart, it's just so easy. Like, you know, we became fast friends, and, you know, Liz is a true pro. There was no trailer. There was no, you know, our trailer was the Mercedes or the Cadillac, whichever one we could sit in that had AC at that time. And we just got to know each other more. And so on every break, we just, you know, talked about our lives, our families. And then it just became so easy to do these scenes. And, you know, I just slowly like fell in love with Liz throughout the whole thing. And that's kind of what the story is anyway. So it was easy.
She is absolutely terrific, perfectly cast. Your chemistry is off the charts. And so it's hard to imagine anyone else in that role.
Yeah, truly. I mean, we didn't audition anybody else. She was it.
Wow.
Jay had a sit down lunch with her for 3 hours, and he called me afterwards, and he was like, "We found our Dee Dee," and I was like, "Cool,
yeah,
sounds good to me."
She is perfect. And you mentioned love story. It is a love story, but it's also a love letter to Baltimore, your hometown. Why was it important to have the city play that kind of supporting role?
Well, you know, I feel like it's been 20 years since John Waters had a movie that was in Baltimore. You know, there have been other iterations of Baltimore that, you know, every time I go home, and I think David Simon's a genius, but, you know, some of the shows are just, it shows the rough light of Baltimore, which is valid, you know, like it's got a whole bunch of different areas. And I just wanted to show it because I grew up in a city that I loved, and I was like, I want to show it in a beautiful light, the beautiful light that I know when I go home, and I go to the city and I go to Ravens games and I go to Orioles game, like that type of feeling of, and also at Christmas time, like it's a magical place, like it really is like this winter wonderland. Um, and I grew up going to like 34th Street. So like to get to shoot a movie on that street was like the coolest ever. And, Jay was like, if we would have financed that, it would have cost millions of dollars. And instead, this was already lit up. We were good to go. And like, we got so lucky to like have the Francis Scott Key Bridge in,
Yep.
Before it fell. And like, that was our last shot of the night in December. It was our last shot. And if we came back, because when we had to do reshoots, like it wasn't there anymore.
Right.
So like, it was just like, and that's what I feel was like our Woody Allen Manhattan moment with the boat going underneath. And it's just, I just really wanted to show that this city has got a lot of heart to it. It's a working class, blue collar place that that the people in it make it what it is.
I'm going to throw you another compliment. To me, what you did with Baltimore is very similar to what Scorsese always does with New York City, and how New York City is literally part of the cast in almost all of his films. Because I would imagine as a filmmaker, location, music, all of these, like you think of a Scorsese film with soundtrack, right? His soundtracks, the movie's not the same if you take away his soundtrack.
And speaking of music, that, just we got so lucky with our composer, Jordan Siegel. He actually works for Peanuts. So Jay put in temp Vince Guaraldi music, gave him the hardest task of putting the score like that in there. And Jordan
that's
came
so
in
interesting. That's what I was thinking the whole time I was listening to that.
Yeah. But people have asked Jay, like, hey, what is that Vince Guaraldi song that's in there? Like, and it was like, Jordan made that up. Like, that is,
That's
and he did
so
such an amazing job.
Jen and I watched it together. I almost said that to you because it reminded me of that. So you alluded to this before by saying you're sober. How much of the story and the characters overall are drawn from your own life experiences, and was it difficult to go that deep and put your life out there, warts and all, for public consumption this way?
Yeah, I mean, that opening scene is how I got sober, that was the last night I drank. And, I asked for help the next day. And I've been sober ever since. And like doing that scene was extremely, cathartic. The associate producer, Miriam, kept on like checking in, being like, you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. Like, this is like, like I've worked through this stuff. I don't think it's a good idea to shoot a movie 6 months after something like that happens. But I think once you've done the work and on yourself and through that, go for it, make your art. And I found that it was funny too. The stunt coordinator was like, what kind of idiot couldn't hang himself from here? And I was like, that's me. And like the whole room kind of laughed. And that's what I found too, is that, like, I started to share in the rooms of recovery about how, how I was holding a little bit of holiday weight and the belt broke. And, I would hear laughs and that's how I told Jay it. And he was like, okay, well, we're going to have to put that in the story. Just so you know, like,
well, that's so interesting because that scene is so authentic because it's one of those things where you can't make it up. It has to be real. I remember my late wife, Adrienne, put a line in the movie, Serious Moonlight, which I had produced after she died. But it was a story I had told her about a relationship I had. And unbeknownst to me, she tucked it in the back of her head. And years later, I'm reading the script and I'm like, holy shit, she grabbed that line. Because it was such a unique thing to say that you can't sit down and write for someone. It literally has to come from your own life. And the reaction from Dee Dee when she's like, I don't know whether you're being funny or not. Like, but that was who Cliff was, right? That's who he was. He just bounced back and forth between this light and dark part of his life.
And I also just love Dee Dee's response after that is like, what holiday was 6 months ago?
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, that's where she was like the
Um,
brainiac trying to
yeah,
figure out like the logic to it, which of course,
yeah, exactly.
that was the least important thing, but also kind of important if you're like listening
Yeah,
to someone tell
exactly.
you
Yeah,
something. You want to know if they're full of shit or
yeah.
not.
And that was like there's kind of stuff pulled from my life through. I mean, Liz told Jay stuff about her life that like once she turned 50, like nobody kind of wanted to talk to her at the parties and such. And so like we pulled that in from her life,
Mm.
and we just kind of like morphed this origin story from like all of our lives. And that's kind of what made this all work, I think.
Yeah. Well, your character, Cliff, he's such a sweet guy. He's so honest. He's vulnerable. He's insecure. He's funny. He's immensely likable, incredibly complicated, pathetic, obviously. How similar are Cliff and real life Michael?
Um, I think they're pretty similar, I never, well, I have a fiance now, but I never have hooked up with a dentist. That is all, story purposes, and because we had a dental location, that is why we paid her a dentist. My biology teacher from high school is a dentist now, and he was like, "Sure, come and use it." Um, but yeah, I think we're similar in the sense of like I don't think I'm always trying to be on as much, even though my fiance might say differently. Um, but like I feel like he he has like he I think he says I think he's more of a mix of my dad and me combined, because he says inappropriate stuff that I don't think I would say anymore. Um, and yeah, I think it's a combo. But I mean, the vulnerability of him, that like I feel like I'm always like, you know, I don't know, I'm crying a lot from joy right now.
Hmm.
Having those moments of just pure like, wow, like I could have missed all this. And like, oh, even as I'm saying it, like, when I watch that opening scene and I sit in there, the theaters, and I'm watching it, and there's a moment where I'm like, God, like if things went a different way, like I would have missed it all. And I'm just so happy that I'm here.
Well, it's awesome that you are here and that you were able to
Yeah.
figure out how to get here.
Yeah.
But the opening scene, because it as a viewer, you're not sure where we're going, right? And so because it is a very dark moment, and it could really set the film off on a very different journey, but so quickly, I mean, so quickly, you pretty much say to us, this is what the movie is about. And it just sort of
Yeah.
lets the air out, and the dark then starts to become light. And then it drifts in and out, the comedy, the drama, which is, it's not easy to balance that thing. My late wife, that was her thing, that she could balance comedy and drama like few other people. But she would say, like, look, that's my life. I laugh 1 minute and I'm hysterically crying the next. So that's how I write.
I was literally about to say, that's what life is.
Yeah.
Like it is a combination of both. And some days it's more lopsided to the comedy. Some days it's more lopsided to the drama. But I think for that day, it was just like, I mean, but that's all, like, I also have to give full credit to like Jay as well. Like that was our writing together, and also just being open to be like, hey, this scene's not working. Let's just, let's improv here, and let's try to, like, we know what the scene's about. Let's get there that way. Cause we kind of just wanted to go for a full on, like, documentary style. Like these feel like two human beings that you're just watching the whole day.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's this whole like comfort zone thing that I think writers and filmmakers go through, where either they're fully comfortable, well, just tearing a slit down their body and opening it up and saying, here I am, good, bad, and ugly. And then there's others who can't really go there, which is why they either gravitate to comedy or they gravitate to some drama. But the part about their own life, they really can't open up with. And that's what, the opening scene really establishes that this is who this character is. Now we're going to go on a journey with him. And I mean, that's the other thing too about Cliff, is that he is so rootable. even when he fucks up, you're just like, okay, I forgive you. I'm sitting there watching going, like,
Yeah.
I forgive you.
Well, and I forgot to tell you this, like we had a whole different opening scene that was at the comedy club, and we see him actually like, um, get his kind of like thrown out, and something just wasn't working. And a day before we were about to shoot that scene, Jay's like, I don't think we shoot it. I think we open with this. And I was like, he was like, sleep on it. And I was like, okay. And I slept on it, and I'm like, I trust you, like let's do that. And I think it plays so much better, with that, because it's like what is happening, and then once it happens, you're like, okay, all right, we're gonna follow him today, you know.
Yeah, it's the perfect opening for
Yeah,
the film. Like if there was a different
yeah,
film that came after it, maybe I'd say I don't know. That might have
yeah.
not been the best choice, but for what that movie is about, that is the perfect opening. Was there something you really, when the process was over, that you said, "Wow, I just learned something about myself this past few years in making this film"?
Um, wow. I mean, when we wrapped, I mean, there were some days where I was driving towards the end of the shoot where like we got done around like 4 in the morning, and I was driving in my hometown back to my place, and um, I was just in a sense of pure gratitude. Like if this is if this is if this is it with Mike, like I'm really happy with what I've done, like and what we've done. Because this is mad, like this is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to shoot a movie in my hometown, and that this is the one we shot. I feel like it's gonna be pretty good, you know. Um, and then like I feel like I just learned that like I I love doing this for a living. Like getting the at bat to do it, um, and do it with somebody that truly trusted me, and I trusted him, and I trusted Liz, and everything just seemed to fall into place. And I don't think all movies are like that. All TV is like that. Uh, and I think we got really, really lucky with this one. Um, and just that, yeah, I'm happy that I, stuck with it because, it's, it's because I mean, yeah, there's been so many times where, I get to audition for SNL, and I go out to New York, and I think this is going to be it. And it doesn't happen, you know? And this is like, once the movie was in the can, it's like, I shot him, like we shot a movie, we shot a movie that, if anything, someone will see it, you know, I'll see it.
Well, the greatest experience of being a filmmaker is when you ultimately watch it for the first time on a big screen, and then you remember like the first moment you sat down to write, and you realize like, here it is. It's up there.
Yeah.
You made that happen, and it is movie making. It is incredible. And you mentioned luck, and I gotta say, I gotta push back a little bit on that. Like, you sent that Instagram DM, like, it's not luck. You made it happen. You made it happen.
Yeah.
Luck maybe
Yeah.
is a part of everything in life, but taking risks is the much bigger part. Did you have any stand-up or sketch comedy in your background?
Yeah, yeah. So what I did Groundling. So that was
Oh, cool.
I was in I was in the Sunday company there. I had incredible teachers there. Karen Mariyama was like my favorite one ever. And that's when I like, I that's when I got the opportunity to go to SNL, and because I did a showcase, um and yeah, it was a great experience. But then, when I got sober, it was like, especially in that first 6 months, it's like, I don't know if I can still like, and that's what the movie touches on too, is can I still do this? Am I still funny?
Hmm.
Like, which was such a fear for me, and also like your first steps of like, um, like the first year sober is always like, this is the first time I'm gonna watch a Ravens game without drinking, gonna, you know, have Thanksgiving, gonna have Christmas. And all those first, which are like, because it was such a, for me, it was such a, I couldn't live without it. Like life without alcohol and drugs seemed like a nightmare, you know, like the worst case scenario, the worst life I could have ever imagined is without drugs and alcohol. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
It was such a great scene, the scene in the club for that reason. And that moment in the film where you talk about that is really quite poignant. You've directed a couple of shorts. I assume you'd love to direct a feature at some point?
Yeah.
Writer, director?
Road, but yeah, I mean, it's down the road. I mean, for right now, if Jay, I mean, Jay and I are kind of going to try to work on something else. And I just love him as a director and writer that like, I don't need to have all the titles, you know. If it comes, it comes. And I think maybe down the road, you know, I definitely want to do it. But right now, I'm just enjoying this moment.
And you definitely want to work with those guys again, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. I work with them to the day I die.
That's awesome. What advice would you give budding filmmakers today, especially those trying to get a small budget indie film made?
Send that DM.
You go.
Take the shot, and also like shoot something with your friends on the weekend, you know, shoot a small thing, get a crew together and just make stuff, you know. I made a lot of bad things like that were not that great, that were 11 years or 13 years ago that I think are still on YouTube that are not, not super funny. But, you know, by doing that, I found my voice. I found what is funny. I found what's funny to me. And I think the more you just create, the more opportunities you make for yourself.
Mm-hmm. What are you working on now that you might be able to talk about?
I just finished shooting a movie in LA, which was pretty fun, with a couple fun people. That I think they're coming out with something with that soon, so I can tell that. And then I shot a movie in New York, in August, the beginning of this month, with Peter Vack, Erica Dasher, David Krumholtz, Michael Blamis. There were some really fun people in it. And then I might be shooting another one next spring. So things are starting to kind of pick up.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Which I'm really, really happy about.
Well, the film again is The BALTIMORONS. When and where will folks be able to see this awesome movie?
Of course. September 5th, it comes out in New York City. We are doing a ton of Q&As throughout this next month. In New York, basically all day on September 5th and 6th, we're doing screenings at AMC, Lincoln Square, IFC Center, Alamo Drafthouse, Brooklyn. We're going to be all over with special guest moderators as well. And then we have, on the 8th, I'll be in Houston for a Q&A screening. On the 9th, we'll be in Austin for a Q&A. On the 10th, can't wait for the 10th, premiere at the Senator in Baltimore. We sold it out, 700 seats. I cannot wait for that screening. And then we go to Boston on the 11th, and Chicago on the 12th, and then it's everywhere nationwide the 12th.
Beautiful.
So please go and see it in the theaters. Enjoy it with an audience.
Michael, I love what you do. I love an amazing success story, and wish you so much success with this film.
Thank you so much, Andy. It was an awesome conversation. Loved every minute. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Matty Rosenberg, and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Lengyel. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.